Hello, my name is Tim Black. Welcome to the Tim Black Show. I'm very happy to bring a guest on the show that I admire. Someone who's a real mover and shaker. She is a humanitarian and activist, and she also ran for Congress. You may have saw her in the Netflix feature of Tearing Down the House or Knocking Down the Door or Knocking Down the House. And she's been knocking down the door. I'm telling you, she's a 2015 Woman of Courage Award, Emmett Till Legacy Foundation winner, amongst many other awards. And I have her here. Her name is Cori Bush. Give it up for Cori, guys.
Hey, thanks everyone. Thanks for having me on, Tim Black. I so appreciate it.
Well, I'm very happy to have you here, and thank you for taking time out your busy schedule.
Absolutely.
So let's jump into it, Cori. What's going on with you right now? I know you ran for Congress, and I know you're doing a lot of stuff. You work with your community. You got your start in Ferguson. What's got you excited today?
Several of us decided to go ahead and run and to make a difference in our communities. After I had come off of the other run for Senate, right after Ferguson, and so it was just this thing about making sure that activists get into these seats because we're the ones that we're some of the ones that have the heart of the community, and we're not afraid to push that. We have that passion, that drive, but then in 2018, it was this thing of, okay, now everybody else is waking up saying, hey, this person that's sitting in this seat is wrong, and we got to look at some of these other people that are in these seats and not be afraid to work to get them out. And so that's what happened in 2018. So now there is this groundswell of people that are like, okay, I'm unbought, I'm unbossed, I'm unbothered, I'm going after these seats. And so that's what's happening now. So I'm running with a slate of people, but I'm still also on the ground in my community doing what I do. Like, that's the other thing we can't forget about when we start running for office and we want to get into these positions. Don't forget about the work that you were doing beforehand. Like, that's important. We got to stay on the ground.
Wow, I love that energy that you have, and I love your enthusiasm for it. And I totally agree. Like, you don't want to just be like, we love the internet, right? But we can't win the battle just on Twitter.
Right. Right. Look, for me, Twitter is cool, but there's so many people that's not on Twitter. It's folks, you got so many other, folks on TikTok now. I'm like, what is it? People on Instagram not even paying attention to Twitter, and people on Facebook that don't even, all of that. We missing people. So get out there and get in the streets, knocking these doors. Anyway, so that's what I'm up to. I'm doing that, still moving around the country for Knock Down the House, making sure that people understand that it's not even about like partisanship. This thing is about just people serving people and wanting to see our country better. And so we're fighting for that and making sure that people know that women are running for these seats and that we are just as great, if not greater, for these seats, whether it's on the local level or all the way up to the federal level. And I got to toss my plug in for Black women. Like, hold up now, wait a minute. That is a huge deal. So we can talk about that a little later, but that's something that we need the world to know, that Black women raise the least in contributions. Black women are the ones who, we're always like at the tail end, of stuff. And but then we're the ones that folks come out and they want us to make sure that we vote as a great block for them.
Absolutely.
So vote for us as a great block to get in these seats.
One of the things, I'd like to stay there if you don't mind, Cori, because one of the things that I experience is there are people I feel who say, we need to support Black women, for instance, but they don't talk about all the great work they're doing. Like, Cori, you've done so much. You've been involved in so many grassroots movements. What you represent, the people that you represent, your constituency. You have a totally different resume and a totally different history of getting stuff done and working hard for the people. I look at you in one way. I don't look at all women the same way just because they're Black women. Like, they got to have a track record like Cori Bush of getting stuff done and fighting. So I just think, you understand what I'm saying?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because we can't, I think that's the other problem that we do have, is that people that want to support us will say they'll just see a Black woman or they'll see a Black person and want to support. I would rather we're not asking for you to just toss us up and just give us anything. We're not asking for that. We're asking for you to vet us the same way that you vet other candidates. Give us the same exact look over. Give us the same, donate to us the same, or more, because we're going to receive less. Like, we're saying, treat us like we are actual viable candidates. Like, don't just push us aside, but then don't give us a pass either, because I couldn't give a pass. I support Senator Bernie Sanders for president, see Field of Burn. And people say, well, you should have supported this person or that person because of color, because of gender. And I'm looking at who's taking care of my community, who is the one that's going to deliver. And I'm not talking about deliver in 3, 5, or 10 years. I'm not talking about all this incremental practical change and all of that, because 30,000 people dying right now while we're speaking, why they want practicality and why they want incremental change, because we've had practicality and incremental change. We've had Black people sitting in positions. We've had, people of other races, and we've had women sitting in seats, and we're still in the place that we are right now. We're saying vet people that look like us, make sure that we're great candidates. What were we doing before we decided to run for office? And then what are we doing now? So that's the message.
That is, and that's a very powerful message. And I don't see how anyone, after listening to you and seeing where your heart is, I mean, you can feel sincerity. I interview a lot of folks, and I can tell when someone is really committed to what they're talking about. Because the words got to line up with the energy. It's got to. They should go hand in hand. And if you're going to be a good politician, you got to be able to communicate that. I mean, some people are introverted or extroverted. And I understand that, but still, you got to make me feel it, sister. So Cori, you got that in spades, sister. You definitely have that. So what's your story, Cori? Like, why did you, there's so many things a talented sister like yourself could be doing. Why did you choose politics?
Wow. So I never thought it would be politics. My dad has been in politics most of my life. And I saw a man that just loved his community, wasn't getting anything really back, but just loved his community, actually changing his community one person at a time. But he took so many darts, and I was like, I would never do that. So I went into ministry. But when Michael Brown was murdered, I saw how the people that are paid to represent us, like, you straight getting a check for representing people in this area, and you won't even show up. Or if you show up, you take a picture and then you're gone. Well, we're watching people, everyday folks, cashiers, educators, postal workers, students, retirees, out on the ground, risking their life, to speak up against this injustice that was Michael Brown's murder by Darren Wilson. And so watching that and feeling like, hey, how do we get the heart of the people that are out here risking their lives day after day? They get beat by the police one day and they come back the next day bruised up. How do we get, and not hating police, but just knowing that we have to do more work to make sure that the community is heard and that police are accountable. So how do we get that heart into these seats? So that's what it was. I was asked to run for this seat by a young man that was an activist out of North Carolina who was murdered. And not too long ago. And anyway, so I'm running because, like, the only way to make that change is for us to not be pushed back by people who say that we shouldn't do it, so for me, I'm a nurse. I work in community health. I've been fighting on the street for people that are in human trafficking. I've been working with our unhoused population. I fight for people that are not people that are oppressed in ways that I'm not, because I saw that on the ground of Ferguson. I saw white people stand up and grab batons from the police and say, you're not going to hit this Black man. I saw Palestinians come in and help us with tear gas, helping us to understand how to handle tear gas when they knew that they were risking themselves. I saw our Latinx community standing up, and they knew they were risking deportation, but they came out and stood with us. So in the same way, now I'm not risking deportation today, so I can speak up for our Latinx community. I'm not somebody that has an issue going into a restroom, so I can speak up for our LGBT community, and so on and so forth.
Wow, that is so inspiring right there. I mean, I think that that's sort of like the embodiment of the whole "not me, us" movement. The whole, right. When you help somebody you don't know, help someone you may never meet. That's a beautiful thing when you have that type of compassion and empathy. I think that's something that's sorely missing, not just in our politics, but in our humanity as well.
That's why I'm here. Let me just say, I wasn't always this person. Let me say, I was a different person. People stuck with me and helped pull me out of that place. Like, I literally almost lost my life. And so I would be dead in my grave had it not been for people helping me. And so I have to return that back.
Wow. What a story. So your friends, have they been impacted? People that have known you, watching this transformation. I mean, you really blew up, Cori. I mean, you in a documentary that did it win awards? I think it won awards. I mean, your name has become household, I'm sure, in Missouri, but also internationally. What's been the change in life for you getting all this attention?
Yeah, it's funny because people want, I said this to someone the other day on a post. We want to, we'll say we want people to do well, like, yeah, do well. But then in reality, it's more like do well, but just don't do better than me. And so that's like what I've been kind of experiencing, and it's okay because just like Harriet Tubman, I feel the same way. Like I'm fighting for folks that's mad at me, that's fighting me back. I'm still trying to get you free. So in the same way, that's what I'm doing. But then there has been like this, there is just this, there's so many people though, more people than that really support and are standing with me and pushing me along. Let me tell you, Tim, there are days when literally I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. I'm turning my back, and people are like pushing me, like, you got to go again today. You got to do it again. That's what it's been. And then we're receiving not just me, but the other women in the documentary, Amy Villela, Paula Swearingen, and I know, of course, AOC. We're receiving messages from all over the world, like literally places where I have to Google to see, like, where is this? Saying you inspired me to run for office. And now, we met with women in parliament. We've met with people in Argentina in Congress, people just saying that you inspired us, like you already in Congress and you saying we inspired you.
Wow. So you sort of like re-inspired them to get rededicated and recommitted to the issues, right? That is amazing. Some people have a bad take on politics. I mean, I know you've seen, I think we talked off air briefly about what, you saw me and Ben Dixon been talking about Michael Bloomberg a lot. And it seems like there are a lot of people who are just willing to cave in for money, sister.
Yeah.
The opportunities that are there. What are some of the issues that you see running in that you're on the lookout for if you get this seat? Like, what are the things you're thinking about that you want to guard against?
Yeah, definitely got to get the money out of politics, because that's this problem we have right now with Michael Bloomberg. We have to get this idea that the middle of the road is good enough. And so I'm not going to alter my voice. I'm not going to assimilate. I'm not going to become somebody else, because this voice has to be heard, because we gotta, people always say, oh, she's this left, this far left leaning, blah, 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 and actually I just feel like I'm a Democrat, because I feel like we've gotten too far. So when we, and I got to bring up Pete Buttigieg, if I'm bringing up Michael Bloomberg, I feel like having that somebody that's trying to play this middle of the road piece, when we have so many, when it's not even the middle of the road, you're missing a whole group of people. And so I feel like me going into this seat means being unapologetic about people that are actually marginalized, people that are actually oppressed, people that are actually not being represented in this country and have suffered this way for so long. And then adding to that, because we're adding to it every time we knock people off the Medicaid rolls here in Missouri, we're constantly knocking kids off the Medicaid rolls, but we're constantly removing people out of the, off of their insurance, off of their Medicare, to where they can't even stay in the nursing homes they were in. And just so much is happening. So so for me going in this seat, it means holding true to the message that I've had. And that's why I support Senator Sanders. I don't care if he's white. I don't care if he's a man. None of that matters to me. This man has been on message. This man has been saying the same thing. He has not flip-flopped. He's not a fish out of water flopping all around. We know who he is and what he stands for. So in the same way, that inspired me to make sure that no matter what comes, no matter what the adversity, like my life has been, staying that way. So I'm going after your education. I'm making sure that there's quality education for everybody, regardless of your zip code. I'm making sure that we cancel student debt. For everybody, even if you went to school in '64, we canceling your student debt. We're making sure that we close this wage gap, but this racial wage gap as well, because Black women being the ones that we are least likely to be able to pay back our student loans as fast as everyone else. We carry the most in student loans, but we also only make 61 to 63% on the dollar. that we actually really earn, and I say it like this. I don't give a 61% effort when I go to work. I give a 100% effort. So why I get 61% on that dollar? So in the same, so I'm fighting for that. So those are the things that I'm working on. Give us what we should have. A human right is our right.
I was just about to ask you, what are some of the policies that you're running on, or that you think the people of your district are going to need? And you just kind of laid it out for me. I mean, you said student debt. You talked about Medicaid. I heard you talk about pre-K in another interview with Emma Vigeland from TYT. What's going on in the community? Are people not having the ability to provide health care for their children? Or
for whatever reason, our governor has decided to not, that we got to cut the Medicaid rolls. And so kids are falling off Medicaid. This is the issue. We have children who are diagnosed with, so we give them access. They have access to try to come to this clinic, so they can come to the clinic and see a psychiatrist. They see the psychiatrist. They prescribe them a particular medication, and then Medicaid says we can't give it to them. We won't give it to them. But then the school says they can't come back to school until they have the medicine. And then so now they're out of school. The parent can't go to work or has to find a way to someone to keep the child, while we're having this fight of Medicaid saying no, but the kid needs medicine, and the school saying they can't come to school. So this happens so much. It happens all the time. And then also we have children that need pre-K but can't go to school. We have children that need preschool that can't go to school because the money isn't there. So we need universal daycare and preschool. We need also to make sure, look, I feel like all of that even still ties in with the school to prison pipeline that I'm fighting, and it still ties in to environmental injustice. So I'm coming after, we need the Green New Deal, because we got to, number one, put those dollars back into our communities, but we also got to make sure that the communities that are disproportionately affected by these coal companies and with the methane and the coal and all of that the arsenic that they're throwing into our communities, causing such a high incidence of asthma, and all of that. And then our kids go to school with lead exposure, and then they call it ADHD, and they get put out. It's such a spiral.
Right.
So I'm coming for all of it.
What a vicious circle it is, isn't it? Wow. God, when you lay it out like that, Cori, it's like, it's really daunting. It's like, one hand, it's like you can't win for losing the way this circle is set up. So you said, let me get this right. You said, they say the children needs this medication, so they can't come to the school, but they can't get the medication because the Medicaid doesn't cover the medication.
They won't give it to them.
And now the parent got to take care of the child, so the parent can't work. Right.
Over and over. And we're talking 5-year-olds. We're talking 8-year-olds.
You know what? I know intimately what it is, like raising a child, and my wife and I, we've got 3 children, and daycare was always the biggest hurdle for us, man. I mean, we always made just enough to be broke, but not enough to, we always made enough not to qualify for anything, but never enough to really like do well. You know what I'm saying? It was like that gap space you always have.
Yeah. I lived in that space for so long. I worked 10 years in childcare. I ended up being the assistant director. I moved up from 2 and 3-year-old preschool teacher to assistant director of this school. And after 10 years, I still could not afford to send my kids to the same school that I worked at. After 10 years, and I still didn't have health care. And so when people say that, oh, it's your fault, you don't have health care, let me help you. Working a 40-hour, 50-hour week and you still don't have health care, what does that do? It affects your credit. It affects you mentally. It affects your children, and it affects what you can bring in. But when we say we give a Medicare for all, we help small businesses because now they don't have to come out of their pocket paying for your insurance. That money can go directly to you. We're asking for $15 an hour minimum wage. So not only $15 an hour minimum wage, but those companies have more money to be able to give you better benefits. So it all plays a part. And then we don't have all of these children and these adults and our seniors. Our elders, they don't have to have that burden. We got elders going back to work after being retired because they can't afford their medicine.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like right now, my dad, he's 70. He can't retire because he requires a medication that costs $1,000 a pill. And if he doesn't have insurance, exactly. If he doesn't have insurance, he can't afford his medication. So he's in that circle that we just talked about, where a spiral where you can't get out. And so he's going to probably have to work until he's no longer on this earth in order for him to keep that medication, unless we get Medicare for All passed.
Dad deserves better.
Yeah.
Dad deserves better.
Yeah, all of us do. All. I'm sure that story, like so many people don't know about how bad our healthcare is until they need it, or until their loved one needs it. Then they realize, oh man, our system is bad, Cori.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard the stories. People will tell me when I'm doing my call time, hey, I support all of your policies except that Medicare for All, because I have good insurance, and and I don't want anybody messing with my doctor and I let them know. First of all, nobody's taking your doctor from you. You can keep the same doctor you have. We just making sure that the person that lives three doors down from you that does not have insurance is insured as well. So make sure. I said, and you have a great job right now and you're good, but lose that job or get a new CEO that changes up everything. And if you think you have choice, you have no choice, because there's somebody that makes the decision as to what company you use. This year is United Healthcare. Next year is this. Is next year. I said so you have no choice other than picking silver, bronze, gold.
Yeah. People need to be more concerned with just not themselves. Like, you got to have humanity, because there go I don't know the saying exactly, but there goes thy before me, or there goes you, or that could have been me. I don't know. You the pastor, Cori. You know the saying.
I'm lost.
There goes thee before. Could have been me. It could have been me. I don't know.
It could have been me.
It could have been
Absolutely.
me. Like, just have that mentality, because I hear it all the time, Cori. Well, I'm good. We negotiated a great deal. Well, what about everybody else?
Everybody else.
I just had a great guest on the show, Rami Osei Frimpong, who was known as the Funky Academic. And he's a philosopher and a professor. And he was pointing out how we need more than just rich people. We need community enrichment. Like, especially in the Black community, because you end up being the one aunt that got all the money. And now you got to hold up the whole family.
The whole,
So
what does that do? Yeah.
So stress. And that's no way to have to live, where we're looking for one or two people in the family to hold everybody else up. That's impossible. So we need entire communities. The entire Black community needs to be uplifted. And the same goes for all communities as well.
Absolutely. And we can't get there with somebody like Michael Bloomberg sitting in that seat. We can't get there with Pete Buttigieg sitting in that seat. We can't get there with Donald Trump continuing to stay in that seat. Let me just toss that out.
Yeah. A lot of people forget Donald Trump. I don't know what it is. I think they just, I guess it's just his media, like the way that he's smooth with the media, that he's just a good talker, and people overlook like all of the bad traits about Donald Trump and all of the cuts he's made. I mean, with me, how do you cut Meals on Wheels? Like, I'm still trying to figure out how you gonna cut the seniors. Like, we can build a space army, a space force, but we gonna cut great grandma's medication or her meals being delivered. I mean, that don't even make sense to me.
It does not make sense. And that broke my heart, because I remember doing Meals on Wheels. I would deliver Meals on Wheels with my dad, and going into those houses, going into those apartments and seeing and meeting those seniors, handing them their plate of hot food. Let me make it clear that food is hot. It was on a tray, like this was somebody that made this plate, a person that cooked this food, made this plate, and we took it in plastic and handed it to this person. And they're sitting at the table and they would say, "Thank you so much, because I didn't know how I was going to eat today." Like that, I was 12 years old and I would hear that, and so for him to snatch that from people that if they had it, they wouldn't need it. We're talking about people that have a need. And I say this all the time. We fight because there is one. If you take away the reason why we're fighting, then we won't have to fight. So if you make sure that people have what they need, then they wouldn't have to need a Meals on Wheels, but you won't do that. So how dare you take away Meals on Wheels, but we want to do a freaking space force. We got money for that, but we ain't got money to make sure that people have access to healthcare, and make sure that they have a livable wage. We got money for that, and we got money for wars. We got, it doesn't make sense to me when we have people that are sleeping on the street every single day.
I tell you, it reminds me of that Tupac, man. Money for war, but can't feed the poor.
Can't feed the poor.
That's what I thought when you started talking. The song was playing in my head, man. And then you hit it anyway, Cori. I tell you, man, you are something else. So what should, like we talked a lot, but is there anything specific that you would want my audience, say this is their first time hearing from you, they heard a lot about you, but what would you want them to take away from knowing about you? Why should they donate? Because that's what we want. We want people to come up out of their pockets, if they got it, and give $1, and give $10, give $100, whatever you have, to Cori Bush's campaign. Why should they do that, Cori?
Because I am the people that I serve. I'm the people that I serve because I've been in these. So for me, it's not a name. It's not about a name, fame. It's not about title. It's about making sure that our community gets what it needs, because I know what it's like to not have. I know what that struggle feels like. I remember being someone who, first of all, let me just say, I was on the right track for a long time. And then there was this person that came to me and told me basically that I was too smart. I was at this school. I just knew that I would end up getting scholarships. I was that A student, A kid. And this person told me when I took this entrance exam for this next school, told me that I scored too high. You know, it was a predominantly white school. I think it was only 2 or 3 Black girls that were starting at that year. And he said, you scored too high. You scored higher than anybody else that's coming in the door. So we need you to retest because we don't believe that was true. So they made me retest. I tested in this huge auditorium all over again by myself, and I did even better. And so anyway, when I started the school, I was treated terribly. Like I was harassed. So many bad things happened. So I ended up leaving. But the thing is, it made me shrink back, and it taught me that I could not be my whole self, and I couldn't show that I was smart. And so it ended up affecting me later. So what happened? I ended up getting into some things that I shouldn't have been in, but I ended up being homeless, out with 2 children, suffering that life. I remember I would go around to different fast food places and mix my baby's formula. I would clean myself up and mix my baby's formula in the bathroom. That's how we live. So I'm somebody that I've been on food stamps. I've had WIC. I've been unemployed. I've been uninsured. I've been discriminated against. I remember my name is Cori Bush. So when people see my name, they assume I'm a white man or a white woman. And so I showed up to this place for a job that I was promised. When I got there, they said, they kept calling my name Cori Bush, and I'm coming. And she's like, Cori Bush. And she turned in her head. I'm like, I'm Cori Bush. And she moved her hand back like she didn't even want to touch my hand. And she said, oh, you're overqualified. And so just things like that. That's why you should pay attention to me running for this seat, because I'm somebody that's been there and decided that I'm going to take what I know and the struggles that I've been through. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. Violent sexual assault. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. Someone did 15 years for what they did to me. I almost lost my life, at the hands of this person. But I don't hate that person. I'm glad they got what they needed, and now they're doing better in society. And so I believe in rehabilitation. I believe in fighting mass incarceration. I believe in making sure that our communities are safe. But I believe in fighting poverty, and we can't talk about crime without actually addressing poverty. So that's why I'm running, because I've been in those places. I know what hunger feels like. I know what it's like to feed your kids and you don't eat for weeks. Going back and forth, I would eat a little bit just to make sure my kids had. And so I understand what that's like. And because of that, we have somebody that's sitting in the seat that has not lived that type of life. Not that you have to live that to represent people, but in this particular way, after 19 years and people still don't feel represented in your community, that person takes corporate PAC money from Goldman Sachs and all of those places, and pharmaceutical companies. I don't take any corporate money, not zero. We've received over 5,000 donations in 2019, and they received a whole lot less. It wasn't even in the thousands from individual contributions. This campaign is about making sure that people get what they need. Now, I get a lot of attacks. I have a lot of issues. Danger is around, and it's okay, because I'm more afraid that we don't get what we need. I'm less afraid of what people can do to me as I try to achieve it. So that's why you should support me. I'm somebody that just wants to take care of my community, that people don't have to suffer the way that I have.
What district is this, Cori, that you're running in?
It's Missouri's 1st district. It's St. Louis.
District.
It's the great St. Louis. Hey.
Wow. Cori, what a riveting story! What a testimony! What a cause! I just want to say, I'm totally floored by your story. I admire you so much. I think more people need to hear about it. You need your own documentary. I think that people they should have just no diss to Amy. I love Amy. I love AOC. I love Paula Jean. Paula Jean's been on the show recently. Yeah. That's my sister out in West Virginia. I'm in Maryland, by the way, which isn't too far from West Virginia.
Right.
But just to shift gears to close it out, it looks like Bernie Sanders might pull this thing off, doesn't it?
Yes. I'm so glad. And I just hope that more people pay attention to not the crap that's coming down from other media, but like you and Benjamin Dixon and so many others that are doing the great work, getting the real truth out there. Senator Sanders is the one that can beat Trump. Senator Sanders is the one that we know who he will be when he walks into that seat. But the other thing is, think about a Senator Sanders cabinet. Like, that is like, oh my goodness, who would he put into these seats? That is the thing. So it's not, because when we think about Betsy DeVos, when we think about Ben Carson, we look at the people that are in these seats, people that should not be in these seats, that are hurting our communities. And we think about turning that around, and who would Senator Sanders put in those seats? Think about my good sister that I love, my big sister let me say, Dr. Reverend Sister Senator Nina Turner has pulled me off the ledge several times. That woman is incredible. When I call, she answers. When I text, she responds anytime. She's amazing. Somebody like her as our vice president, look at how she has inspired so many people, regardless of color, socioeconomic background, or anything, regardless of race. So that's what we need, somebody that's able to see the whole picture and make sure that everybody feels represented. He's going to pull this thing off because he has a movement behind him, and he has a movement that is unwilling to look at everything else that everybody is saying and just listening to this man that cares about everybody else, that's saying, not me, it's us. That is the message. And we not finding out that he has he don't have a stop and frisk background. He not the one who got into office and all of a sudden racism and arresting black men in his community just shot up. He's not that one. He's not that one that's taking the corporate money. He's not that person. And so that's why he can take this. And so I need everybody that looks like me. I need everybody that's brown, everybody that's black. I need everybody that's queer, straight, whatever you are. I need my disabled community. I need all of us to come together and listen to this man. Go ahead and YouTube him. Listen to his speech. Forget what mainstream media is saying about him. Listen to him speak, and listen to him speak to your issue. This man is incredible, and we need him in this seat.
Wow. 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 Hey, look, Cori, tell people where to go to find out more about your campaign and contribute.
Yes, CoriBush.org. That's CoriBush.org. I'm not a part of the George or Jed family, so you can go ahead and donate to me. I'm a Democrat. And I'm also on Twitter at Cori Bush, and Facebook, Instagram at Cori Bush. Reach out to me. info@CoriBush.org if you have any questions.
That's it, Cori. Cori, when is the election?
August the 4th, 2020.
August 4th. Okay, August 4th. Wow. Well, look, I definitely want to have you back before August 4th to check back in and make sure you got that push. Thank you so much for your time, sister. Folks, go to CoriBush.org and help this person who's helping the people. This is a human being who's fighting for other human beings. That's what you need to know. CoriBush.org. Do it today. And, wow, Cori, thank you for giving us your time, sister.
Thank you.
That's it. That's a wrap. Thank you, Cori, man. This is great. You are a force of nature yourself, sister.